Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for being patient. This is our first live technical difficulties and Tuesday difficulties, and you guys know how real estate is right now. So had some questions to answer this morning for other people on current closings. So this got pushed back a little bit. Hopefully, as we get these scheduled a little earlier, that won't happen as much. Today, the topic I've chosen, you guys posted a few things you want to hear about, and you will eventually hear about them. We'll be doing this every Tuesday as best we can. Hoping that it'll be every Tuesday, so it'll be something we can get used to. Hopefully all learn together. I hope that you guys in the comments will share your wisdom and insights and experiences on what we talk about in these. It shouldn't be just me yapping. I wanted to make sure I got Chewy back there. That's a hand-drawn Asheville artist Chewbacca picture. It's very not related to what we're going to be talking about today, but those of you that know me know that I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. So I just wanted to share that beauty with you. That looks at me every day before I go to work, so it really shapes how I practice. But anyway, today I chose the topic of, because frankly it's the one that most commonly comes up among the topics you guys shared. So I figured we'd knock it out first. And I preach it every day to people. And then they disregard my advice. And that, as you probably have already guessed, is about surveys. Ann Harold over at French Broad Real Estate Company had asked, what about surveys? How does not having a survey done affect title insurance policies and everything else that's going on? Because every time you guys send me a closing, and hopefully the other attorneys are doing this for you, I don't know, we are recommending surveys, that you go out and get a survey. My engagement letter says something to the effect of, it's up to you, but, and we'll let you know if we see just an absolute need for one, but we strongly recommend you get a survey. And if you don't, it very politely says, may God have mercy on your soul. And that is because it is very important, if there's a problem on the property, to discover it with a survey. And if you don't, it is now your problem if you buy that property without having that survey done. And a lot of people are okay with that risk. The market shows that, frankly, because most of you don't have surveys done. But that's something I have to recommend. And there are lots of reasons for that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to go through a list that we send out to people when they say, Zeno, why are you recommending a survey? Is it really important? Or are you just making our life painful? And so we've got this nice template that we send out to people that explains a bit more when they're curious about why I'm throwing a wrench in their very smooth one-week closing. And I'm going to go over some of those with you. And then we're also going to look at a title insurance commitment together. And I know that sounds like a lot of fun. That's probably why my watchers just went down a little bit. But you need to know this information. So I hope you'll watch it, absorb it, ask questions in the comments and all of that. So, of course, when you see my survey recommendation, you roll your eyes. You say, Zeno, this was surveyed in 2000, like that wasn't 20 years ago. Believe me, I know it's weird. But, Zeno, this was sold last year. Why do we need a new survey? Well, there are lots of reasons. I'm going to be real upfront with you. The first reason I recommend a survey is to cover my own arse. As soon as I tell you guys, don't worry, the property looks great, it's probably not going to be a problem, you don't need a survey, just do it. There's going to be a problem and you're going to blame me. You're going to say, Zeno told me not to get a survey, I didn't need one. And guess who's going to then have this huge liability? And whether you guys like to admit it or not, the attorneys are stuck with the liability after a closing. Maybe I should post about that next time. So it's to cover my butt. I recommend one, and if you choose not to get one, well, I recommended it, so that was your choice. Another, a new survey is going to, like I say, it's a current picture of what's there. If you have a 20-year-old picture of what's there, well, we all looked a lot different 20 years ago, didn't we? That land, there's lots that can happen to that land in 20 years. There's lots that can happen in 10, and 5, and 1. And that new survey is a new picture of that land. It's going to disclose any problems that could have been avoided or corrected before closing, on the seller's dime usually. And that's why we recommend it. Because again, if I don't, you're going to get mad at me if there is a problem that I didn't recommend one, even if you wouldn't have gotten one anyway. Number two, it will define and confirm your exact boundary lines and your exact acreage. You know, when we buy real estate, it's not like we're buying a car. You can see the car, you can test drive it, you know what it looks like, you know how it runs for the most part. Some people even get them checked out by a mechanic. You know, that's nice and quick and easy. Getting checked out by a mechanic, sort of like getting a survey on real estate. Now, if you want to know exactly what you're buying, you're getting that survey done. If you proceed to purchase property without having a new survey done, I'm going to say that again. If you proceed to purchase property without having a new survey done, you do not know your exact, or you don't have confirmation on your exact boundary lines, your exact acreage, and the exact picture of that property. You're choosing to take that risk that it's the same as what the sellers got, and the sellers didn't have any problems when they bought it because they didn't get a survey either. You've gone out there, you've looked at it, you're like, nah, I'm okay. You know, I don't see any obvious things. I'm okay moving forward, and hey, that's your choice. And in some cases, big picture, that's the right choice. But you're not going to know for sure unless you have that survey done about your boundary lines and acreage. I'm not going to certify your boundary lines and acreage, and title insurance isn't going to insure your boundary lines and acreage without a current survey of that property. Okay, they're going to insure what we think it is, and if it's not, they're not going to insure it. So that's the whole point. You want it to insure what it actually is. If it insures what we think it is and we find out there's a problem, they're going to be like, well, you had the chance to get a survey. We're going to talk about that later. It'll also show you the location of easements crossing the property. I get this question all the time. I want to build a whatever, chicken coop, a shed, you know, people are building all kinds of stuff right now. Tiny home, you know, and I guess tiny homes are movable, but you may not want to move it, especially if you're you know, hiding it from the Airbnb police or something like that. Can I build it here? Can I put this here? Can I put a driveway in here? Can I put a second driveway in here? I need to know if easements cross my property that might, you know, if there's a utility easement that could have to be dug up and maintained and repaired one day, and you build on top of it, they're going to make you tear that down so they can get to their line. That's a potential problem. The only way to locate some of these easements is to have a survey done of the property. The reason being, in the documents that convey easements, especially utility easements, they're pretty vague about where they are on the property. It's usually, you know, I'm the utility company and I have an easement on Bob's property. Bob gave me an easement. Bob hereby gives me an easement, period. Well, where? And in my opinion, they're left ambiguous so that the utility company can go in there and put it wherever they feel is the easiest for them. If you want electricity, you're going to help them out and be very standoffish as to where they throw the line in. A surveyor can go in there and show you where that easement actually crosses the property. Maybe someone that you don't know about using the back part of your property to access their property. Maybe someone that you don't know about has cut a road over your property to their property. You don't know about it, or I don't know, you're not okay with it. A survey would also show that road cut in there, even if it's not supported by an easement. Sometimes that's important to folks to know that. And the only way you would know that, again, is if you have a new survey done of your property. What else do we have here? It will define or confirm how the property is accessed. So that's an important thing to talk about. You know, people see dirt, especially in these mountain properties. You know, well, there's a dirt road right there. That's how we get to our property. There's a dirt road that's been cut in. It clearly goes to our property. Bob let his mom use that road to get to her property. She's selling it now. I'm just going to use it too. That's not necessarily the case. Bob might have let his mom use that dirt road to get to her property. You might not have legal rights to use that dirt road at all. Mom might be selling her property and she knows the only actual legal access is from north of the property off the main road or something. And that's the access you're expected to use. You buy that property thinking, but this dirt road goes right by this beautiful waterfall. I'm going to use it. It's going to be great. And Bob's going to say, you can't use that dirt road anymore. And you're going to say, well, that's how we drove up to the house for the showing. And he's going to say, I don't care. You don't have an easement to use it. I let mom do that, but you're not mom. A survey would have showed you that there is no legal easement to give you rights to cross the dirt road by the waterfall, that your only access is north. So there's what's called actual access and legal access. Actual access is how you actually try to get to the property. Legal access is what you have a legal right to get, how you have a legal right to get to the property. They don't always match. Sometimes they'll put an easement, I'll use the screen, easement up this side of the property, and they, the nincompoops go in and build the road here. Well, mom sells her property. Bob doesn't want you crossing this for whatever reason. He's going to say, oh, you're welcome to build a road here, but you can't cross this anymore. And without a survey, you're not going to know whether that road is actually in the boundaries of the easement, the legal easement. Another risk that a lot of people take, and it sometimes goes south. And then, I show them where they didn't want a survey. And we try to help them, but it's your problem if you buy it without one and you find that kind of thing else. So you want to be sure you don't have any questions about access there. Let's see. It will discover or confirm encroachments, deed gaps, and other issues that you may want to consider having fixed before purchasing the property. Okay, so encroachments are, it can be a few different things, but basically, long and short is, it means that one of your neighbors has put or built something onto your property and encroached onto your property, right? It can be part of their garage, it can be a shed, it can be part of their driveway, it can be a rock wall. We see that all the time. Rock walls and fences encroaching onto the neighbor's property. Well, they of course don't have a legal right to do that. And you may or may not be okay, if you buy that property, maybe you're okay with the neighbor having their rock wall on your property or whatever. But it can also go the opposite way. What if the property you're buying, what if the garage on that property encroaches onto the neighbor? That neighbor can make you tear down any piece of that garage that encroaches onto their property if you don't have an easement for that, or we haven't taken care of that by an agreement with the neighbor. That's something you may not know without a survey, especially if you have this happens all the time, guys. If you have a boundary line survey that's a block, beautiful block. Hey, we had this survey 10 years ago when we subdivided this property. Well, that hasn't been surveyed again since construction went down. And so someone built a house, hopefully it's within the boundary lines, another reason for a survey. Someone built a garage, hopefully it's within the boundary lines, another reason to get a survey. If it's not, and you didn't get a survey done, caveat emptor, guys, buyer beware, you're a problem. And the seller's gonna be like, I don't know what to tell you. I own the property I conveyed you. If part of the construction is on someone else's property, you should have a survey done. And they're probably going to win that argument. We can talk about that if that ever comes up, but they're probably going to win. And you might be made to buy property from your neighbor, lest they make you tear down your garage. So these encroachments are a big deal. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's a corner of a fence. And the clients will be like, I'll report it to them. I'll say, look, I don't know how much it would cost to move this fence. Probably not much. Do you want to just go ahead and close? And if it ever becomes a problem, you take care of it? A lot of times they're like, sure, that sounds good. We get it. If it's something more expensive to move, like a rock wall, like a garage, whatever, then that's a bigger problem. And I certainly urge them to consider the costs of potentially doing that. Sometimes we'll go to the neighbor and see if they'll go ahead and sign an agreement to allow them to have that encroachment. It's an encroachment agreement. It says, hey, yes, you're encroaching on my property, but you know what? That's okay. I didn't care before. I didn't know about it before. A lot of times they don't. I know about it now. Some neighbors are cool, some aren't. So that's how it goes. I have seen with access, going back to access really quickly, I had a client have to pay $10,000 for access over a tiny dirt road. The neighbor said, yeah, you can use my dirt road. And I'll take 10 grand for it. He didn't budge. They really wanted the property. They paid him $10,000. It was the second closing I did, an easement closing, and $10,000 for an easement. So be careful with that. That's a rare situation, I think, but it can come up. You don't want to be the agent that tells your client not to get a survey. Don't worry about what Zeno's saying. And then they have to pay 10 grand to the neighbor because they're probably not going to be the one that ends up paying it, if you catch my drift about that. Deed gaps. So deed gaps are a little confused. They're very confusing to most people. What happens is I get Bob deeds me a square piece of property, right? Sally deeds Frank, I love these names, a square piece of property. And our little corners, it's like a Venn diagram. They overlap each other. Well, who owns that area? Who you know, do I own it? Did the person who deeded me the property actually own that little area so that they can convey it to me? Did they do that before their deed? Did they do that before their deed, but they didn't own that little piece of area? These people did? That's what's called a deed overlap. And the surveyors aren't going to search the title back to find out who actually owns it. They're just going to show you, hey, the legal description in this deed and the legal description in this deed overlap. You're only going to know that with a new survey because a lot of times they'll survey our deed, our property, and they'll survey the surrounding properties and they'll define the boundary lines that way. There are solutions to deed gaps, but any area in that deed gap, you know, you may not realize that you don't actually own because, again, I'm going to be closing on the old description if you don't get a new survey done. And it's not going to cover whether or not that deed gap's there. If you want to say, I'm confirming the person owns what they're selling to you. And this does get a little confusing for people. If you want to know that you own that blade of grass at the corner of your lot, get a survey. If you want to know that you're getting something, don't get a survey because I'll make sure you're getting something. Whatever they own, you're going to get a general warranty deed, and I'm going to certify that you get whatever they own. But if you want to know if you own that blade of grass, you better get a survey. You want to know that you own that tree, that fruit tree, bamboo patch. I've seen it. I've seen all these things, guys. You better get a survey done. Make sure you own it. I had a client whose neighbor did them the favor of cutting down all of their bushes and all of their trees. Neighbor says it's on their land. They're now in a lawsuit with the neighbor using a survey, and they're probably going to win. And I mean, this wasn't just a bush or a tree. This was many, many, many old trees. So it's a real shame, but that affects their property value, and certainly those items have value there. I don't know if you guys know this, but 20-year-old bamboo is worth quite a bit of money, FYI, per stalk. Yeah, so let's see. Good deal. What's next here? Okay. You'll see me say, okay, guys, survey looks great. When you get one, can you please go get it recorded? A lot of these surveyors are going to push back. We may have some watching, and they're welcome to comment below, and I'd love to hear their thoughts on this. I always recommend surveys get recorded. Sometimes people push back on that, some don't. I've never really understood the big reason for pushing back on that beyond the fact that it takes time to record a survey. I mean, I don't think it takes that long. You can e-record a survey now, so you don't have to go down to the courthouse necessarily. I'll let surveyors chime in below on how hard or easy that is because I don't know. I don't record surveys. I just know you can e-record them now. Some surveys do have to be signed off by the mapping departments and whatnot, but I personally see that as the surveyor's job. And I do like to have them recorded. Look, number one, it gets on record what you own. And that's important for when you go to sell the property, frankly, there are buyers out there that are not going to buy especially big tract. They're not going to buy it if it's not, they don't want to buy a survey, and it just is what it is. And they want to at least rely on a decently new one. And that goes against everything I'm saying, but listen, this is true. And it's just another reason your property value might go up, or at least be a little bit more enticing if they know they don't have to survey 47 acres or 10 acres or whatever. But it gets it recorded. It also updates the tax office when you do that. So you're actually getting taxed for the correct acreage and all of that. If you don't get it recorded, I'm not really certain. If we don't use it as a legal description on your deed, I don't see how the tax office is going to update the GIS and correctly assess your property. So a couple of reasons to do that. It also, when neighbors are buying and selling property around you, those title searchers, surveyors, and attorneys are all going to see that the neighboring property has a survey, and that can help prevent issues. Okay, it's also, again, just an easy thing to do and cheap as far as I understand, so it's kind of a no-brainer to me. Lastly, and this was really Ann's main question, how does it affect title insurance if I don't get a survey done? And I can't stress this enough, guys, so I've saved the scariest for last. it has a huge, huge effect on your title insurance policy. In fact, I personally would never buy property without having a new survey done. And I guess never say never, but I'm going to explain to you why, okay? Maybe one day I will buy property without having a survey done, and everybody can comment and post and make fun of me, but guys, I'm going to explain why. In my opinion, it completely guts and makes almost useless your title insurance policy. Because title insurance, the title insurance companies are smart. They're in insurance, guys. They don't want to have to pay claims. That's how they make money, okay? And they make a lot of money because they get to rely on my title search and my liability, which again, I'd love to talk to you guys about one day. And things like surveys and everything else. They get to rely on those. If they pay out, they get recouped from those professionals. But if they don't have an attorney's opinion, or they don't have a survey, or they don't have whatever, then they're not going to insure it. I mean, they didn't know about it. If they're not told what the situation is, they're not going to insure that it's true. You know, they're insuring my work, they're insuring the surveyor's work. If they don't have that stuff, they're insuring manufactured homes, which I'd love to talk to you guys about one day. No one posted it in the comments, but we really need to talk about manufactured homes, especially right now since the DMV is down. But anyway, that's probably starting to become a problem on some of your closings. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent. Okay, back to why it guts your title insurance policy. There is a form exception in every title insurance commitment that I've ever seen where we don't have a new survey done. When we do have a new survey done, we ask for survey coverage from the title insurance company, and we won't have this exception in there, but I'm going to read it to you. And it's very important, guys. It is something that you need to keep in mind. I've pulled up a sample here. I'm just trying to find that language. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. This is going to get really dry and boring, but I want you to try to keep up. In the exceptions section on a title insurance policy, they list the things they don't cover, okay? Just like with any insurance policy. One of those exceptions is as follows. Any discrepancy, conflict, access, shortage in area or boundary lines, encroachment, encumbrance, violation, variation, overlap, setback, easement, or claim of easement, riparian right, water rights, and title to land within roads, ways, railroads, watercourses, burial grounds, marshes, dredged or filled areas, and land below the mean high water mark or within the bounds of any adjoining body of water. We're still going. Or any adverse circumstance affecting the title that would be disclosed by a current inspection and accurate and complete land survey of the land. What does that mean? It's a lot of words. The way I interpret that is, if a survey would show a problem, we're not insuring it. If whatever problem you have post-closing would have been found by a survey, we don't care who else should have told you about this. But my realtor said, but my lawyer said, but the seller said, but the neighbor said, but the surveyor said. Some surveyors tell people you don't need a survey. That's fine. Then your beef's with all of them. But title insurance is going to say, you didn't have a survey done and it would have shown that problem. We're not insuring it. Sorry. You should have had a new survey done. It's in our policy. Hopefully the attorneys are telling you guys this. If you've purchased property and you did not get a survey done, and there's a problem, and that survey would have shown it, title insurance is not going to cover you. If you thought the well was on your property and it's 5 feet on the neighbor's property, and you did not have a survey done, and you thought you had well access, and you say, I'm filing a title insurance claim for that, title insurance is going to say, you didn't have a survey done. That would have shown the location of the well. We are not insuring. That's it, guys. I thought I was accessing my property by this dirt road. That's what everyone told me. And I have insured access, right? Yes, you do. Across some other road. Most likely not across that dirt road. And because they're going to say a survey would have shown that, and we're not insuring it. We're not going to pay to litigate, which is what title insurance is there to help you with if it were to be a problem. Sorry, we're not going to help you. Any adverse circumstance, guys, that sounds like a pretty catch-all term to me. any adverse circumstance that would be shown by a survey. So if you ever have a problem that the survey might tend to show, they're going to argue that they don't have to pay for it. It guts the policy you're buying, in my opinion. So I really strongly urge you guys to reconsider surveys. I strongly urge anybody out there looking for a career to get into surveying. There's a lot of demand right now. It's a good career. No offense to my current surveyors here. And they're great, and I have lots of great recommendations for you, but a lot of the reasons you guys don't get them is because they're costly and timely. They take time, and a lot of them are booked out for longer than you guys want to wait on a closing for and all that. We need some help in the surveying department. Because it's kind of tough that people are choosing not to have them done simply because there's not enough surveyors. But the truth is, it's very important that you get one done. And fine, you know what, you guys, I've been saying this for 10 years, so and not much has changed. You guys are still going to not get surveys done, but just be aware that if you don't, those are all the items that you might have a problem with after closing. And if and when they come up, don't be surprised. Okay, make sure if a client asks you about a survey, please tell them to talk to the attorney about it, but at least make sure they know, hey, maybe it's low risk that there's a problem, but it's your risk that there's a problem if you don't get a survey done. It's your risk to take on. Buyer, do you want to move forward without a survey and take that risk? Because again, what you don't want to do is please don't ever tell a client they don't need a survey. If anything else, let the attorney do that. Then it's off of you guys. Again, liability is something we're taking anyway. Let us take all of it. We have to take 99% of it to begin with. So get your attorney to help you out with that. That way it keeps you free and clear, and you don't accidentally get yourself in a bind with telling someone, oh yeah, I don't think you need a survey. Thanks guys. I'm gonna let you guys get back to work. I've got to do that too. Hope this was helpful. Please comment in the comment section with any questions, any comments, anything like that, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks.